everyone, I'm back. Sorry. To be fair, this was a very complex video to make. I'm going to be doing the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse while also doing random prompts. There's obviously several interpretations of the 4 Horsemen. I'm taking the white horse as pestilence. I wanted to make a icky, creepy guy, and that's what I'm gonna do. So, I rolled a 14, 12, and a 15. That is items of clothing, seasons, and careers. I got a shawl, spring, and a paralegal. I gave this first guy a rodent nose and horns. I didn't keep up with the horns theme throughout. I kind of wish that I did, looking back. I think this guy is the most interesting looking face-wise. When you bring a mountain, unfortunately, it does mess up the character's pose no matter what you do, but you can kit bash it back. You just need to fuss with their legs a fair bit. I'm making the artistic choice to not have every single one of them riding the horse. I wanted them to interact with their horse in a different way. So he's going to be leaning up against his mount, eating a rat. Also, if you have a character who is initially on a mount and then take him off, it still thinks that if you add a skirt, it should billow out. So there's also going to be some kit bashing involved in that. I actually ended up just bringing a skirt on top of him instead of having to fuss with each of those points. I put a bunch of tails on his back to kind of look like cysts. I'm just going to cover him in creepy oozing parts and mushrooms. And as a paralegal, he's just going to be holding a ton of documents. I don't know what he's doing law-wise. Perhaps he's sorting through death certificates. There's a lot of paperwork involved in death, so maybe that's what he's dealing with. I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork in the apocalypse. For spring, I'm going to be bringing in some flowers. The horse and the man, they're going to be tied together. They're going to be reflecting each other in each of these. I love those new magic swoosh parts. I think I used them in every single one of these models. Again, all these decals will go a long way in terms of coloring. There's also a lot of gore. If you're not into that, maybe this isn't the video for you. He's got these oozing growths and sacs everywhere, including on the horse, and blood dripping from the rat in his hand. I wanted the paper to be kind of like a meat flesh color. I really like how the horse turned out, truthfully. I like the mushrooms coming out of the eyes and the nostrils. I feel kind of bad for it. I'm a big horse person, so this was a fun prompt for me. I was inspired to make just like a goopy guy, and that's what I did. And it led to the rest of this video. I think in terms of details, this one might be my favorite. But the other ones are good, so keep watching. All right, I got a 5, 9, and 18. That's gonna be furniture, flowers, and weather. A laundry basket, I guess that counts. A grape, hyacinth, and I need to find a better weather generator, but essentially cloudy and windy. So this next one is going to be famine. So I'm obviously gonna make him super skinny. That's kind of a given, right? I wanted him to have sort of a farmer / overworked worker look. Unfortunately, I can't make the horse skinnier, but I'm going to make it look worn down. It's going to be pulling a cart. Now, I love this draft horse model, but unfortunately, the anatomy does not stay consistent if you mess around with it too much. It gets really stretchy really fast, so I have to be very careful to not make it look bizarre. Especially in the neck, there's a lot of points where it can get choppy. Making the cart out of the planter box, adding some wheels. And these staffs, and then a couple chains to connect them to the horse. I put shackles on his wrist because I wanted it to be a little ambiguous if he was leading the horse or if he was chained to the horse, if their fates are chained together. They're hauling these barrels of probably wine for someone that is not them. And then his laundry basket, I'm turning into more of just a basket that he's going to wear on his back that is empty. He carries nothing for himself. Famine is typically depicted carrying scales, so I had to make one using a few different parts. I used, I believe, an eyeglass, some plates, and horns, and then shrunk down some chains as small as I could make them. Then I'm going to put the grape hyacinths on the higher side and a bag of coins on the lower to symbolize the power and weight of the demands of the wealthy over the demands of nature and agriculture. And I do like that they are called grape hyacinths and not that wine is made out of them, but grapes. I don't know, it ties together. It ties together in my mind. Again, don't forget to pose the face. There's a lot of different things you can do with that. And as many decals as possible. Sometimes I just pick a base color, throw it on everything, and then once I see it on the material, I'm able to fuss with the saturation and hue. Then I'll make a copy of that color and change it just slightly to give it some variation in the shading. And the bag of coins is covered in blood. Just a little wealth inequality for you. And then to incorporate the weather, I'm adding a lot of shadows, and I wanted it to look like they're pushing through a heavy wind. It has a very desolate, hopeless feeling. And then for the final touch, blood leaking from his mouth down the front of him to insinuate that desperate times call for desperate measures. I also had those claw marks to show that he's clawing at his own hunger. Yeah, just bleak. Very bleak. I love how this turned out. I think the pose of both of them work together quite well. And I like the scale. I had very limited parts. That cart took a lot of the kit bashing. All right, next up, we've got a 1, a 13, and 11. That's going to go to elements, biomes, and aesthetics / fashion. For the elements, I just made my own list. I rolled 2, so we've got air, then a mountain, and then cripple punk. Okay, might be a little on the nose because I'm doing war next. So I'm going to take away a few of his limbs. This guy is the only one who is actually on the horse. Again, I liked having a variation in that. To show the air element, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to show movement in the tail and some other pieces to show a big gust of wind. Then I'm also going to have an element of something coming from above, something coming from the air. And his deal is he's going to be standing atop a mountain on his war horse, very excited about what's to come. But there's a little bit more to that. For as excited as these two look, they are both in pain or injured. For the punk element, I'm just going to give him a bunch of spikes and a bunch of skulls and make him look pretty cool. And yes, there is a sword stuck in his arm. He's going to be covered in these really cool weapons that are effectively useless compared to whatever is coming above him, to sort of represent the aesthetics and romanticizing of war. And not only that, he is chained to his war horse. He is strapped in. He can't go anywhere without this because of his disability, his lack of limbs, which he probably lost in some battle. So while he looks cool, he is strapped into his fate, and he might not be as in control as he thinks. And to make it even more on the nose, they are both then chained to this rock in the mountains. There's going to be a lot of blood splattering for this one. Again, when it comes to coloring, my recommendation is always just lay down a color first and then mess with it in the mix tab later. This video took me so long to make that it's now Pride Month. Happy Pride. I'm adding a tree to give more depth to their environment and show that they are on the peak of a cliff or mountain of some sort. I really like this new flowing leaf bit. I think that's really cool. And it's going to be hard not to use it all the time. I didn't like the bloody swoop on the horse's stomach, so I'm changing it to look like the tree has impaled the horse a little bit and have blood drip down the limb. The finishing touch is a dagger coming out of his back. And there is war. I'm really happy with how that final look turned out. Last but not least, we got a 20, 17, and a 16, which is emotions, shapes, and instruments. Bells, envy, and an oval. I considered making Death a skeleton. I prefer he be an old man. It'll get the emotion of envy across a little bit more. envy is what led this whole design. Who's envious of what? And I'm going to say that Death is envious that his companion is leaving him. So I'm going to make a dying horse. Again, tweaking all these limbs took forever, and it's so easy to mess it up because it is so stretchy. But I think I got it to a position that looked natural enough. Is envy the feeling of an immortal who can't join their companion? I think it makes sense for the story. It's a bit tragic. A bit of a tragic ending. Incorporating the oval is going to be how Death's magic comes through, either easing the pain of his horse or taking him to the afterlife. And he's going to be ringing a bell, tolling the dead, if you will. I'm adding 3 bells on his belt to represent the other horsemen, while his bell is the biggest and the final. Now, Death's horse is said to be pale, so I'm going to mess with the coloring a little bit more and mess with the opacity. Those runes are going to be glowing down from his oval spell. So the paint on the horse is a little transparent. I've covered him in scars and bruises and burns because whatever he does, he cannot die. Making sure he looks a little envious. It's maybe difficult to have that come across, especially with him wearing a hood. But of course, he needs a hood. He's Death. His final oval is right over where his heart would be if he had one. And there's our 4th and final horseman. Let me know which one was your favorite, which one you think was represented the best. This was quite the challenge, but I'm glad to be back. There will be more in the future. Take care. I'll see you next time.